Thanks for listening to our daily Bible study lesson. The lesson today is zealous but lost. In our reading yesterday in the book of Romans, the 10th chapter, beginning in verse 1, the Apostle Paul said, "Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth." Do you notice Paul's description as he looked at these Jews? He said they have a zeal of God. That word zeal is one that talks about the idea of a fervent desire, such as that. One of the words that is used in defining it is heat. I read that and I think about people who are on fire for God. And we all know multitudes who are that way. Maybe it's you and I. But we look and we realize that there is something more that's needed than a zeal. The Apostle Paul didn't look at them and say, well, they're zealous, they're sincere, they're trying to do what they can, everything's okay. No, he was one who mourned because of their state. They were lost. Why? Well, the reason was they had that zeal, but it wasn't coupled with knowledge of God's will at least. You find that they themselves had the idea that, well, our fathers said this, our fathers have done this, this is a tradition that we follow. Sometime look and just see how many times they were chastised because they had the zeal to follow the traditions of their fathers. And instead of letting that zeal guide them to look deeper, what did God say? You know, in Acts 17 and verse 11, the Apostle Paul, as he spoke unto others, we have a description of those individuals who heard as those who are noble. Why? They searched the scriptures whether these things were so. You see, that's the type of zeal we must have. But these individuals, they had a zeal that instead was camping upon what the Father said, what tradition was, what the latest, most popular rabbi might say. Well, you look and you find today that carries over. How many of these zealous people that we see or may be, their zeal is looking and whenever giving an answer for what they do, well, you know, my preacher says, everybody else thinks, I've always believed, my family, on and on we go. But that's the type of zeal the Jews in that day had. And he said, they're ignorant of God's righteousness. They go about to establish their own righteousness, which we can do if we look to family, preachers, friends, the multitudes, instead of searching the scriptures whether these things are so. You look and you find that in the book of Romans, the 10th chapter, you go on and he talks about, again, continuing about the Jews, and he says in verse 16, they've not obeyed the gospel. For Isaiah saith, Lord, who hath believed our report? And then he says, faith. This what they act upon. Their faith was in the fathers, the traditions. He says, faith comes by hearing the word of God. You see, that is the standard. That's the foundation. That's the basis of what I do, what I think, if I have a proper guided zeal. Well, how's that going to end? How is it that we get past this zeal without knowledge? Well, instead of going to I think, look and see what God said. Until that happens, there'll always be the heartache as those who are truly zealous and following God's will look upon those in this world who are zealous, yet ignorant of the righteousness of God. Thanks for listening, and you have a great day, and you will, and you'll help others too, if you base your zeal upon the Word of God. Thank you again for joining us in this Bible study. We remind you, if you'd like to follow along in our daily Bible reading, the link below in the description of this video will give you the PDF so you can read right along with us. If you have any other questions or if you'd like information on a Bible study, contact us with the information provided on the screen before you.